Jack Wilson wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the coolant pipe. The engine room of the UES Horizon hummed around him, its steady vibration a comfort after 3 years in deep space. As the ship's lead maintenance engineer, Jack knew every pipe, wire, and panel like he knew his own hands. "Engine efficiency at 97%, Lieutenant Wilson," said the ship's computer. "Optimal levels achieved." Jack smiled and put his wrench back in his tool belt. "Thanks, computer. Tell Captain Miller I fixed the coolant leak." He stood up and stretched his back. At 34, Jack wasn't old, but crawling through maintenance tunnels for hours made his muscles ache. He looked out the small viewport at the stars beyond. The Delta Quadrant was beautiful, full of stars no human had seen up close before. The Horizon's 5-year mission to explore this region had already discovered 17 new planets that might support human life. Jack was about to head to the mess hall for a late dinner when the alarm blared. "Alert! Unknown vessel approaching. All crew to battle stations." The light switched to red. Jack ran to his emergency station at the auxiliary control panel. The Horizon wasn't a warship, but its shields were strong enough to handle most space dangers. The ship suddenly rocked violently, throwing Jack against the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder. "Hull breach on deck 3, the computer announced. "Shields at 60%. Another hit rocked the ship harder. Equipment crashed to the floor around Jack. Whatever was attacking them had weapons far stronger than the Horizon shields were designed to handle. Captain Miller's voice came over the speakers. "All crew to evacuation pods. This is not a drill. We are under attack by an unknown alien vessel. Abandoned ship." Jack started toward the door, then stopped. The main reactor was only 1 deck below. If it was damaged, the ship would explode before everyone could escape. He turned back to his control panel. "Computer, show me reactor status." The screen lit up red. The reactor cooling system was failing. Without it, they had maybe 10 minutes before explosion. Jack made his decision in a second. "Computer, route all emergency power to evacuation pod launches. I'm going to stabilize the reactor manually. Warning: manual reactor stabilization requires presence in reactor room until completion. Estimated time to stabilization, 8 minutes. Time to recommended ship evacuation, 7 minutes." "I know," Jack said, already running toward the emergency ladder that led down to the reactor level. "Just make sure everyone else gets out." The ship took another hit as Jack climbed down. He could hear the evacuation pods launching. Good. The crew was getting away. The reactor room was chaos. Sparks flew from damaged panels. Steam hissed from broken pipes. The reactor core glowed bright blue at the center, pulsing dangerously. Jack ran to the main control panel. The cooling system was failing fast. He couldn't fix it completely, but he might be able to slow the reaction enough to give the evacuation pods more time to reach safe distance. His hands flew over the controls. "Reroute power here. Bypass damaged systems there." The ship shook again. Another hit. "Computer. Status of evacuation. Evacuation 65% complete. 4 minutes until minimum safe distance reached." Jack worked faster. Sweat poured down his face. The heat in the reactor room was rising. The air felt thin. Life support was failing. "Evacuation 80% complete," the computer said. "Warning: unknown entities detected boarding on deck 2. Jack froze for a second. Boarding. The attackers weren't just trying to destroy them. They were coming aboard. No time to worry about that. Jack connected 2 emergency power cables directly to the cooling system. The reactor's dangerous pulsing slowed slightly. Evacuation 95% complete. The computer reported 3 minutes until minimum safe distance reached. Jack allowed himself a smile. He was going to die, but the crew would live. That was what mattered. The reactor room door slid open. Jack turned, expecting to see fellow crew members who hadn't made it to the pods. Instead, 4 tall figures stood in the doorway. They weren't human. Each was nearly 7 feet tall with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer like metal in the emergency lights. They had 4 arms and wore black armor that covered most of their bodies. Their faces were flat, with no nose, just breathing slits, and their eyes were like purple crystals. Jack backed up against the reactor controls. "Computer, who are they?" "Unknown species. No match in database." The aliens moved into the room with smooth, coordinated steps. 2 held weapons, long, curved objects that hummed with energy. The others appeared to be scanning the room with devices attached to their lower arms. "Stay back," Jack shouted, grabbing a heavy wrench from his tool belt. It was a useless gesture. If they wanted to kill him, they could do it easily. The alien in front made a series of clicking sounds to the others. One responded with similar clicks. They seemed to be discussing something. The leader pointed at Jack, then at the reactor controls. It seemed to understand what Jack was doing. Another violent shake rocked the ship. The lights flickered. The reactor pulsed faster again. "Warning. Reactor critical. 2 minutes to core breach." Jack turned back to the controls. If he was going to die, he'd die trying to save his crewmates. To his surprise, one of the aliens moved forward and began working on another control panel. Its forehands moved with incredible speed. It wasn't trying to stop Jack. It seemed to be helping stabilize the reactor. Evacuation 100% complete. The computer announced all survival pods launched. Jack felt a moment of pure relief. His friends had made it out. Now he just needed to buy them more time to get away. The alien working on the controls made a sound like a bell ringing. The leader responded, then turned to Jack. It raised one of its devices and pointed it at him. "I don't care what you do to me," Jack said, standing tall. "My crew is safe." A blue light shot from the device. Pain exploded through Jack's body. His muscles locked up. The world spun around him as he fell to the floor. Before darkness took him, Jack saw the aliens continuing to work on the reactor. They weren't trying to speed up the explosion. They were stopping it. Why would they save a ship they had just attacked? Jack woke up in darkness. His head pounded. His mouth was dry. He was lying on a hard surface that vibrated slightly beneath him. Slowly, his eyes adjusted. He was in a small room. No, a cell. Metal walls, no windows, except for a small circle, in what must be the door. The air smelled strange, like ozone, and something sweet he couldn't identify. Jack sat up carefully. His uniform was torn and dirty, but he didn't seem to be badly hurt. Just bruises and small cuts. His tool belt was gone. He stood and walked to the small window. Through it, he could see a corridor made of the same dark metal as his cell. The design was nothing like human ships. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. Jack stepped back and tried to think. The aliens had attacked the horizon. They had boarded just before it would have exploded. Then they, saved it. No, that couldn't be right. He remembered the shaking, the damage. The horizon couldn't have survived, so he was on their ship. But why take him prisoner? Why not just kill him? Jack went back to the window and pressed his face against it to see as much as possible. At the end of the corridor, there was a larger window, a viewport into space. What he saw made his blood freeze. In the distance, a human colony was burning. He recognized it immediately. New Terra, one of humanity's largest settlements outside the solar system. Bright flashes lit up its night side. Attack ships. The same design that had attacked the horizon swarmed around it like angry insects. Jack slumped against the wall. Now he understood. The aliens hadn't just happened to find the horizon. This was a coordinated attack on all of humanity's presence in this sector of space. And he was the only human who knew it was happening. A sound at the door made Jack stand quickly. It slid open, revealing 2 of the 4 armed aliens. One held a weapon pointed at Jack. The other carried what looked like a tray. The unarmed alien set the tray on the floor and backed out. The door slid closed again. On the tray was a container of clear liquid, water, and something that might be food. A purple-gray paste. Jack didn't touch it. Instead, he sat on the hard shelf that served as a bed and stared at the door. He wasn't supposed to have survived the attack on the horizon. He was supposed to have died with his ship. But now, as the only witness to the beginning of what looked like a war, Jack realized he might be humanity's only hope. He just had to figure out how to escape from an alien warship and warn Earth before it was too late. Jack spent 3 days in his cell, marking time by the meals the aliens brought him. He tried to talk to them each time the door opened, but they never responded. They just sat down the food and left. The strange purple paste tasted like salted oatmeal. The clear liquid was water, with a hint of something sweet. Jack ate and drank carefully at first, worried about poison, but soon realized he had no choice. He needed to stay alive. On the fourth day, something changed. When the door opened, a single alien stood there. This one was taller than the others, with dark red markings on its armor. 4 bright metal bands wrapped around its upper arms. "Human," it said in a deep, grinding voice. Jack jumped to his feet in surprise. "You speak English?" The alien made a sound like stones rubbing together. A laugh. "Maybe. We learn your languages quickly. Simple patterns." It stepped aside and motioned with one of its forearms. "Come. Commander wants to see you." Jack hesitated, but then walked through the door. 2 guards waited in the hallway, both holding the curved energy weapons he'd seen before. "What's your name?" Jack asked the red-marked alien as they walked. "Krell," it said. "I am second battle leader of this ship. I'm Lieutenant Jack Wilson, Engineering Division, UES Horizon." "We know," Krell said. "Your ship's data was easy to take." They walked through corridors that curved in strange ways. Jack tried to memorize their path, but it was too confusing. Everything on the alien ship was built at slightly different angles than what humans would use. The walls were covered with the same glowing symbols he'd seen from his cell. Now that he was closer, Jack noticed they changed constantly, pulsing with different colors. "Those are information displays?" Jack asked, pointing. Krell looked at him with its purple crystal eyes. "Yes. You understand technology well." "I'm an engineer," Jack said. "I fix things." "Interesting. You stayed on your dying ship to fix it while others escaped." Jack was surprised they knew that. "Yes. To give my crew time to get away." Krell made a sound like metal bending. "That is why Commander Drax wants to see you. Such behavior is respected among Vex. So that's what they called themselves, Vex." They reached a large door that slid open at their approach. Inside was a circular room with a raised platform in the center. On the platform stood the largest Vex Jack had seen yet. It wore black armor with gold designs and had 6 arms instead of 4. "Commander Drax," Krell said, lowering its head. "The human engineer." Drax turned slowly. Its crystal eyes were deep blue instead of purple. "Human," Drax said, its voice even deeper than Krell's. "You are far from your territory." Jack stood straight, trying to look confident. "We were on a peaceful mission of exploration. You attacked us without warning. You entered Vex space," Drax said simply, as if that explained everything. "But you interest me. Your ship's records show you volunteered to die so others could live." "That's what we do," Jack said. "We protect each other." "Vex do this also," Drax said. "For the good of all Vex." Jack pointed toward the viewport where he could still see flashes around the distant colony. "Is attacking peaceful settlements for the good of all Vex?" Drax made the stone-grinding laugh sound. "Peaceful. Your kind spread like disease across stars. Taking building changing. We watched for 20 of your years. Each new human settlement pushes closer to Vex space. Now you cross our borders." "We didn't know," Jack said. "We've never even heard of the Vex before." "Ignorance is not excuse," Dra said. "But ignorance can be fixed. That is why you live." The commander moved closer to Jack. "You will teach us about humans, how you think, how you fight. Then we will decide if your kind can exist near Vexace." Jack felt cold fear in his stomach. They wanted him to help them understand humanity's weaknesses. "And if I refuse?" Drax's crystal eyes flashed. "Then you have no value. But I think you are too smart to refuse." Jack needed time to think, to plan, to find a way to warn Earth. Playing along might be his only chance. "What do you want to know?" he asked. Drax seemed pleased. "Good. First, you will see our ship, understand Vex power. Then you will know why resistance is pointless." Over the next few days, Krell showed Jack parts of the massive Vex warship, always under guard, always with limited access. But Jack saw enough to understand they were in serious trouble. The Vex ship was huge, nearly a mile long, with weapons that could destroy small moons. Its engines used some kind of advanced fusion technology that Jack had never seen before. But most importantly, Jack learned the Vex had 20 more ships just like this one, all heading toward human space. He tried to learn more during each tour, asking careful questions that wouldn't raise suspicion. "How do you cool your power core?" he asked Krell one day as they walked past a humming wall of machinery. "Liquid metal channels heat to outer hull," Krell explained. Very efficient. Jack nodded, storing the information away. Our systems use water under pressure. Not as good, but simpler. Krell seemed interested in these exchanges. Jack realized the second battle leader was studying him as much as he was studying the ship. On the 7th day, Krell took Jack to a new area, engineering. Here, Vex with special green markings on their armor worked on complex machines. Jack tried not to show too much interest, but his engineer's mind was racing, taking in everything. The main power distribution panel was similar to human designs, just more advanced. The coolant system ran through the center of the ship with emergency bypass valves at regular intervals. Most importantly, Jack noticed the reactor was directly connected to the weapon systems. No safety buffers, no isolation circuits. A design flaw or just a different approach. As they walked back to his cell, Jack passed a room where several Vex were gathered around what looked like a human woman. She was unconscious on a table with machines scanning her body. "Who's that?" Jack asked, stopping suddenly. Krell pulled him along. "New specimen captured from small outpost. Is she alive?" "For now, if useful, stays alive." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. The woman's face kept appearing in his mind. Another human here on this ship of nightmares. Was she the only other survivor? The next morning, instead of Krell, Commander Drax came to Jack's cell. "Your knowledge of engineering is impressive," Drax said. "You understand our systems quickly." Jack shrugged. "Machines follow rules. Doesn't matter who built them." Indeed, Drax studied him. "You will work with our engineers now. Help improve efficiency." This was what Jack had been waiting for. Access to ship systems, less security, a chance to do something. "What about the other human?" Jack asked. Drax's eyes flashed. "Female scientist studies communication. Not your concern. Could I talk to her?" "It's been a long time since I spoke to another human." The commander was silent for a moment. "Perhaps if you prove useful." As Drax turned to leave, Jack asked one more question. "Where are we going? What's our destination?" Drax looked back at him with those cold blue crystal eyes. "Your Mars colony. Biggest human settlement outside Earth. Good place to demonstrate what happens to those who enter Vex space." The door closed, leaving Jack alone with this terrifying knowledge. Mars colony had 15 million people. The Vex planned to kill them all as a warning. He had to do something. But what could one human do against a warship of advanced aliens? Jack sat on his hard bed and thought about the ship's systems, about the woman scientist, about Mars colony and its millions of innocent people. There had to be a way. Some weakness in the Vex ship, some plan he could make. He wasn't meant to survive the attack on the horizon, but he had. And now the fate of millions might depend on what he did next. Jack lay back and closed his eyes, going through everything he'd learned about the Vex ship systems in his mind. The direct connection between the reactor and weapons, the coolant system layout, the communication array he'd glimpsed during one tour. Slowly, an idea began to form, a dangerous, desperate idea. But maybe, just maybe, it might work. Jack's new job in the engineering section of the Vex ship started the next day. 2 guards took him from his cell to a large room filled with humming machines. 5 Vex engineers with green markings worked there, checking screens and adjusting controls. "Human will work here," one guard told the chief engineer. "A Vex with extra green marks on all 4 arms. Commander's orders." The chief engineer looked at Jack with what seemed like doubt in its crystal eyes. "Can it understand our systems?" "I can," Jack said. "And I have a name. Jack Wilson." The chief engineer made the stone-grinding sound that Jack now knew was Vex laughter. "I am Tekla, first engineer. You will assist with efficiency improvements." Jack was given a small work area, with a screen showing ship systems. The Vex language was strange, full of symbols that changed shape depending on their meaning. But Jack was starting to understand the basic patterns. Technical information was easier to figure out than conversation. For 3 days, Jack worked on small problems. He found ways to improve power flow in non-critical systems. Nothing that would help the Vex weapons or engines, but enough to prove he was useful. Tekla seemed impressed. "You understand well for a human," the chief engineer said on the 3rd day. "Perhaps your species is not as primitive as we thought. We just think differently," Jack said carefully. Sometimes a different view finds solutions others miss. That night, back in his cell, Jack was surprised when the door opened after dinner. Krell stood there. "Come," the second battle leader said. "Commander has reward for your good work." Jack followed Krell through the ship's twisted corridors until they reached a new section. Krell stopped at a door and opened it. Inside was a small room similar to Jack's cell, but with 2 beds instead of 1. On the second bed sat the human woman Jack had seen before. She looked up as the door opened. Her eyes widened when she saw Jack. "Another human?" she said, standing quickly. She was tall and thin with short brown hair. A small scar crossed her left eyebrow. "Talking time," Krell said. 1 hour, then guards return." The door closed, leaving Jack alone with the woman. "I'm Lieutenant Jack Wilson, Engineering Division, Huey's Horizon," he said quickly. "Who are you?" "Dr. Anna Reed, Xenobiology Research Station on Outpost 7, she replied. "They attacked without warning 3 weeks ago. Killed everyone else." Jack nodded. "Same with my ship. I only survived because I stayed behind to stabilize the reactor during evacuation." Anna sat back down on her bed. "Why are they keeping us alive?" "They want to learn about humans before they decide if we're worth letting live," Jack said grimly. "I've been helping in engineering to gain their trust." Anna's eyes narrowed. "You're helping them? They destroyed my entire research team." "I'm helping them with small things to learn about their ship," Jack whispered, moving closer. "I think there might be a way to stop them before they reach Mars." Anna's anger changed to interest. "Mars, that's their target." Jack nodded. 15 million people. They want to make an example of what happens when a species enters Vex space. He lowered his voice even more. "I need to know, what have they had you doing?" "Analyzing human communication patterns," Anna said quietly. "They're trying to understand our distress signals, our military codes. I've been giving them old, outdated information, but I don't know how long I can keep that up." Jack took a deep breath. "I think we might be able to work together on something, but it's dangerous. We'll probably die." Anna gave a small, sad smile. "I've been dead since they took me. What's your plan?" Jack glanced at the door to make sure no guards were watching through the small window. "The Vex ship has a design flaw. Their reactor connects directly to their weapon systems with no safety buffers." And Anna asked, "If someone could overload the coolant system while the weapons are firing at full power, the feedback would cause a chain reaction. The whole ship would explode." Anna thought for a moment. "You can do this from engineering?" Jack shook his head. "Not alone. I need access to the main coolant control, but it's in a restricted area. And even if I got there, I'd need at least 15 minutes uninterrupted to reroute everything. The second they notice, they'll stop me." "So you need a distraction," Anna said. "More than that," Jack replied. "I need someone to send a warning to Mars. Tell them about the Vex fleet, their weapons, their weaknesses." Anna's eyes lit up. "I'm in the communication section. They've been having me analyze human signals, but the equipment works both ways." "If I could get access during an emergency." "Exactly," Jack said. "But we need that emergency first." They spent the next half-hour planning. The Vex ship would reach Mars in just over 2 weeks. They needed to act before then, when the ship was still far enough away that the warning would give Mars time to prepare. "There's an asteroid field between here and Mars." Anna said they'll need to drop out of faster-than-light travel to navigate it safely. That's when ship systems will be under most stress. Jack nodded excitedly. "Perfect. During asteroid navigation, power fluctuations would be normal. They won't notice my changes to the coolant system right away, and communication will be disrupted by the asteroids, which gives you cover for sending a message. But how do I get to the communication array? And how do you get to the main coolant control?" Anna asked. "We're always under guard," Jack thought for a moment. "I've been gaining techless trust. A few more days of good work and I might get more access. As for you," Anna finished his thought, "during an emergency, security will be lighter. I could maybe overpower a single guard if I surprised them." The door suddenly opened. Krell stood there. "Time finished." Jack stood up. "Thank you for letting us talk," he said respectfully. "It helps our work to share human perspectives." Krell seemed pleased. "Commander thinks keeping you functional is important. May allow more talking time." As Jack was led back to his cell, his mind raced. Their plan had huge risks, but it was the only chance to save Mars. Now he needed to gain even more trust from the Vex engineers. Over the next 5 days, Jack worked harder than ever. He found a way to improve the ship's life support efficiency by 8%. Not a critical system, but enough to impress Tekla. "Your work good," the chief engineer told him. "Strange methods, but results acceptable." "Thank you," Jack said. "I've been studying your coolant systems. The design is fascinating." Tekla's crystal eyes brightened with what Jack had learned was pride. "Most advanced in Vex fleet, my design improvements." Jack nodded enthusiastically. "I noticed the connection points near Section 12 have unusual flow patterns. Is that intentional?" "Yes. Increases cooling efficiency during weapons fire," Tella explained, bringing up the system on a large screen. "See coolant diverts to weapons during firing sequence." Jack tried not to show his excitement. Tekla was showing him exactly what he needed to see. Brilliant. "And the emergency controls in case of coolant leak. Main control here." Tekla pointed to a section on the ship's diagram. "Can reroute all coolant from this station. Backup systems here, here, and here." Jack memorized the locations. Section 42, just 2 corridors from the main engineering room. He now knew exactly where he needed to go. That night, Jack lay awake in his cell, running through the plan again and again. Tomorrow, he would ask Krell for another meeting with Anna to finalize everything. The ship's system showed they would reach the asteroid field in 3 days. That was when they would make their move. As he drifted to sleep, Jack thought about his crewmates from the horizon. He hoped some of the evacuation pods had reached safety. He hoped they had warned Earth about the Vex. Most of all, he hoped that what he and Anna were about to attempt would work. If not, millions would die, and humanity would face an enemy they weren't prepared for. Jack wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was a soldier, in a war that had started without warning. A war that might end before most humans even knew it had begun. He wasn't meant to survive the attack on his ship, but he had. Now he had to make that survival mean something. "Asteroid field approaching," announced the ship system in the harsh, clicking language of the Vex. "All crew prepare for navigation sequence." Jack was at his workstation in engineering. When the announcement came, his heart began to beat faster. Today was the day he had met with Anna one more time 2 days ago. They had gone over their plan again, checking for any problems they might have missed. Everything was ready. Human called Tekla from across the engineering room. "Monitor coolant pressure during asteroid field alert if levels change." "Yes, Tekla," Jack replied, trying to sound normal. This was exactly what he had hoped for, a direct assignment to watch the coolant systems. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Outside, the asteroid field waited. Thousands of rocks ranging from car-sized to mountain-sized, all floating in the darkness of space. "Shields at maximum," ordered Commander Drax's voice over the ship's communication system. "Weapons ready. Begin navigation." Jack watched as power levels across the ship changed. Shields drew more energy. Engines switched to precise maneuvering mode. The weapon systems powered up to destroy any asteroids too large to avoid. Tekla moved to the main control panel, all 4 arms working quickly to adjust systems. The other engineers were equally busy at their stations. Nobody was watching Jack. He pressed a sequence on his control panel that he had prepared yesterday. A small program hidden in the system diagnostics. It would show normal readings at his station while he was gone. Jack glanced around one more time, then slipped away from his work area and through the small maintenance door at the back of the engineering room. The corridor beyond was empty. All crew were at their stations for asteroid navigation. Jack moved quickly, but quietly. He had memorized the path to Section 42, where the main coolant control was located. Left at the first junction, right at the second, through the narrow passage that connected the crew areas. The ship shook as it maneuvered around a large asteroid. Alarms sounded briefly, but then stopped. Normal procedure, Jack hoped. He reached Section 42 without seeing any Vex. The door was locked, but Jack had prepared for this too. During his work in engineering, he had noticed the Vex use simple code patterns for door access. He had memorized Tekla's code from watching the chief engineer. Jack entered the code. The door slid open. The coolant control room was small and empty. A circular panel dominated the center, with tubes running from it into the walls, floor, and ceiling. This was the heart of the ship's cooling system. Jack got to work immediately. He knew he had 15 minutes at most before someone noticed he was missing. First, he accessed the main control panel. The VEX system was complex, but Jack had studied it carefully during his time in engineering. He began rerouting the coolant flows, creating a pattern that would look normal at first, but would fail catastrophically when the weapons fired at full power. The ship shook again, harder this time. A direct hit from an asteroid, or maybe they had fired the weapons to destroy one in their path. Jack stumbled, but kept working. "Warning," said the ship's system in VEX language. "Unusual power fluctuations in Section 38. Jack froze. Section 38. That was where the communication array was located. Anna must be making her move. He worked faster. The coolant rerouting was halfway done. He needed more time. Anna Reed had been waiting for the asteroid field. When the first shutter ran through the ship, she knew it was time. The VEX guard watching her work at the communication array was distracted, looking at the alert signals flashing on the wall. Anna had noticed that this particular guard was younger than the others, its crystal eyes a lighter shade of purple. Less experienced, she hoped. She stood up suddenly. "I need to check the signal amplifier," she said, pointing to a panel on the far side of the room. The guard made a noise of annoyance, but nodded. The VEX wanted her to keep working during the asteroid field passage, to analyze how human ships communicated during navigation challenges. Anna walked to the panel, her heart pounding. Behind it was a heavy metal tool she had hidden 3 days ago. When the guard had been called away briefly for a ship-wide security check, she opened the panel, grabbed the tool, and turned in one smooth motion. The guard was looking at the asteroid field through the viewport, its back to her. Anna didn't hesitate. She swung the tool with all her strength at the back of the guard's head, right where she had noticed a gap in its armor. The guard dropped without a sound. Anna rushed to the communication array. She had very little time. Once she sent a message to Mars, the VEX would know something was wrong. She quickly adjusted the array to human emergency frequencies. Mars Colony monitored these channels constantly. Then she began recording. "Emergency alert to Mars Colony. This is Dr. Anna Reed, sole survivor of Outpost 7. The research station was destroyed by alien attackers called the VEX. They are heading towards Mars with a fleet of warships. Their weapons can penetrate our strongest shields. They plan to destroy the colony as a warning to humanity." She paused, thinking of what else Mars needed to know. The VEX ships have a critical weakness. Their reactor connects directly to their weapon systems with no safety buffers. Concentrated fire on their weapon ports during full firing sequences could trigger a chain reaction. I repeat, target weapon ports when they're firing. The ship shook again. Anna nearly fell but caught herself on the edge of the console. This message sent by Lieutenant Jack Wilson of US Horizon and Dr. Anna Reed of Outpost 7. "We are attempting to disable the lead ship from within. Don't wait for us. Prepare defenses immediately. 20 ships approaching. Estimated arrival." A loud alarm blared through the ship. Anna's message had been detected. She quickly pressed the transmit button. The message began streaming out into space, aimed at Mars. Anna didn't know if it would reach them. The asteroid field might block or distort the signal, but it was their only chance. The door to the communication room slid open. 2 VEX security guards stood there, weapons raised. Anna raised her hands slowly. "It's too late," she said. "Mars knows you're coming now." Jack heard the alarm and knew what it meant. Anna had been discovered. The ship security would be on high alert now. He had finished about 80% of the coolant routing. Not enough to guarantee destruction of the ship, but maybe enough to it if he could complete the most critical connections. The door to the coolant control room slid open behind him. Jack didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "Human," said Commander Drax's deep voice. "You disappoint me." Jack kept working, his fingers flying over the control panel. "Just a few more adjustments. Step away from the controls," Drax ordered. "Now." Jack ignored him, completing one more critical connection. Then something hot struck his back. Pain exploded through his body as he fell to the floor. "Bring the female human," Drax said to someone Jack couldn't see. "They will both answer for this betrayal." Jack tried to stand but couldn't. The weapon had damaged something in his spine. He could barely move his legs. 2 guards dragged Anna into the room. She had a cut on her forehead, but her eyes were clear and defiant. "Did it send?" Jack whispered when they dropped her beside him. Anna nodded slightly. "Full message. Don't know if it got through the asteroids." "Enough talking," Drax said. "You have damaged ship systems during dangerous navigation. You have sent unauthorized communications. You have attacked Vex crew. Such actions have only one punishment." The commander raised a weapon, a short, curved blade that glowed with energy. "Wait," came another voice. Krell entered the coolant control room. "Commander, what have the humans done?" "Sabotage," Dra said. "Betrayal." After we showed mercy, Krell looked at Jack, crystal eyes showing what might have been disappointment. "Is this true, Jack Wilson?" Jack found enough strength to raise his head. "You're going to kill 15 million innocent people. What would you have done in my place?" The second battle leader was silent for a moment. "Then, Commander, the human has logic. They protect their kind as we protect ours." "Irrelevant," Drax snapped. "They must be eliminated as examples." The ship suddenly shook violently, much harder than before. Warning alarms blared from every panel in the room. "Large asteroid approaching," announced the ship system. "Collision imminent. All weapons to maximum power." Jack felt a surge of hope. This was exactly what he needed. The weapons firing at full power, while his sabotaged coolant system was active. "Take the humans to the bridge," Drax ordered. "They will watch their colony's destruction before they die." As the guards lifted, Jack and Anna, the ship's weapons fired, the massive energy discharge rumbling through the vessel, and deep within the coolant system, Jack's sabotage began to work. Pressure built where it shouldn't. Heat increased in systems that couldn't handle it. Power surged through connections never meant to carry such loads. The first explosion was small, just a coolant pipe bursting in Section 40. The second in engineering was larger. By the third explosion, it was already too late for the Vex ship. "What is happening?" Commander Drax demanded as another explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every panel in the coolant control room. Alarms blared in the harsh Vex language, announcing system failures throughout the vessel. "Coolant. System failure in sections 38 through 42, reported a frantic engineer over the communication system. Weapon systems overheating. Reactor pressure rising beyond safe levels." Drax turned to Jack, who was still on the floor, barely able to move from his injury. The commander's crystal eyes flashed with rage. "What have you done, human?" he growled. Despite his pain, Jack managed a small smile. "I'm an engineer. I fixed your ship, just not the way you wanted." Another explosion, larger than the ones before, shook the entire vessel. The lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting that cast long shadows across the room. "Commander," Krell shouted over the noise, "we must evacuate." Reactor containment failing. Drax stood frozen for a moment, crystal eyes fixed on Jack. Then he seemed to make a decision. "Evacuate all essential personnel to secondary vessels," he ordered. "The human female comes with us as specimen." "What about this one?" Krell asked, pointing at Jack. Drax looked down at the injured human engineer. "Leave him. His damage to our ship has earned him the right to die with it." The guards picked up Anna, who struggled against their grip. "Jack," she called out, "I won't leave you. Go." Jack shouted back, "Live. Make sure Mars is ready." Krell hesitated, looking down at Jack. The second battle leader seemed conflicted. "He fought well for his people," Krell said quietly. "A warrior's death." Then they were gone, dragging Anna with them. Jack was alone in the coolant control room as the ship died around him. He tried to pull himself up using the control panel, but his legs wouldn't support him. The weapon had damaged something in his spine. He wasn't going anywhere. Ship-wide evacuation ordered. Announced the Vex system. Reactor breach imminent. Estimated time to critical failure. 12 minutes. Jack looked around the room. He had done it. The ship was going to explode. Anna had sent the warning to Mars. Even if the Vex took her with them, humanity would be ready when the fleet arrived. But 12 minutes was a long time to wait for death. With great effort, Jack pulled himself across the floor toward the door. Maybe he could at least see what was happening. Maybe there was still something he could do. The corridor outside was in chaos. Emergency lights flashed. Steam hissed from broken pipes. Occasional explosions still rocked the ship as systems failed. But no Vex remained in this section. They had all evacuated. Jack dragged himself along using only his arms. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he didn't want to die in that small room. After several minutes of painful crawling, he reached a viewport. Outside, he could see small ships launching from the Vex vessel, escape pods carrying the crew to safety. In the distance, the asteroid field loomed, its massive rocks drifting slowly through the darkness of space. Reactor containment at 20%. The ship's system announced critical failure in 8 minutes. 8 minutes to live. Jack leaned against the viewport wall, exhausted from his efforts. He had done everything he could. Now all he could do was wait. Then something caught his eye. A different kind of ship launching from the lower section of the Vex vessel. It wasn't a Vex escape pod. It was sleeker, smaller. Jack recognized it immediately. It was a human shuttle. The Vex must have captured it from one of the outposts they destroyed, and now someone was using it to escape. A new energy filled Jack. If he could reach that shuttle bay, maybe he could find another human vessel. Maybe he could escape, too. It was probably impossible. He could barely move. The ship was falling apart around him. He had only 8 minutes before everything exploded. But Jack Wilson had never believed in giving up. With renewed determination, he began dragging himself toward where he thought the shuttle bay might be. Each movement sent pain shooting through his body, but he kept going. Left at a junction, right at another, following signs in the Vex language that he had learned to read during his time on the ship. Reactor containment at 10%, announced the system. Critical failure in 5 minutes. Jack kept moving. Another explosion rocked the ship, throwing him against a wall. Something fell from the ceiling, narrowly missing his head. The air was getting hotter as cooling systems failed throughout the vessel. Finally, he reached a large door marked with Vex symbols for external vessels, the shuttle bay. The door was partially open, jammed during the evacuation. Jack squeezed through the gap and into the massive chamber beyond. Most of the bay was empty. The Vex had taken their escape vessels, but in one corner, Jack saw what he was looking for. Another human shuttle, smaller than the one he had seen launching, but still intact. With the last of his strength, Jack pulled himself toward it. The shuttle's door was open, just a few more meters. Reactor containment at 5%, the system announced. Its mechanical voice now distorted by damage. Critical failure in 2 minutes. Jack reached the shuttle and pulled himself inside. The controls were standard human design, similar to what he had used on the Horizon. His hands moved automatically, powering up systems, preparing for launch. The shuttle bay doors were already open from previous launches. Jack could see space beyond freedom, if he could reach it in time. Reactor containment failure, said the yaw Vex system. Critical explosion imminent. Jack fired the shuttle's engines. The small vessel lifted off the bay floor and shot toward the open doors. Behind him, the Vex ship began to break apart as the damaged reactor finally gave way. The shuttle cleared the bay doors just as the first major explosion tore through the Vex vessel. The blast wave caught the small craft, sending it spinning out of control into the asteroid field. Jack fought with the controls, trying to stabilize the shuttle as pieces of the exploding Vex ship flew past him. The massive warship was coming, apart in a series of spectacular explosions, lighting up space like a newborn star. A proximity alarm blared. A large asteroid was directly in his path. Jack tried to steer around it, but the shuttle's controls were sluggish from damage at the yaw. Last moment, the asteroid moved, or seemed to. It took Jack a second to realize it wasn't an asteroid at all. It was a ship, a human ship, unidentified shuttle. "This is UES Defender," came a voice over the communication system. "Do you require assistance?" Jack could hardly believe what he was hearing. A human military vessel. They must have received Anna's warning and sent a scout ship to investigate. "This is Lieutenant Jack Wilson, formerly of UES Horizon," he replied, his voice weak but clear. "I require immediate assistance and have critical intelligence about an alien threat." "Wilson, from the Horizon." The voice sounded shocked. "You're alive. Stand by for emergency docking. Medical team is preparing to receive you." As the UE's Defender's docking bay opened to receive his damaged shuttle, Jack looked back at the remains of the Vex warship. It was now just scattered debris floating among the asteroids. He thought of Anna, taken by the fleeing Vex. He would find her. Somehow he would make sure she was rescued. But for now, he had done what seemed impossible. He had survived. He had destroyed the enemy ship, and he had brought humanity the warning it needed. Jack Wilson wasn't meant to survive the attack on the horizon, but because he had, millions of lives would be saved. As his shuttle was guided into the Defender's Bay, Jack finally allowed himself to close his eyes. For the first time since the horizon was attacked, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope Mars would be ready. Humanity would fight, and Jack would be there to help lead the way. The final explosion of the Vex warship lit up space behind him, like a funeral paean for those who had died, and like a beacon of warning for what was to come. The war had just begun,